A lot of these people don't realize that like SMMA can work. It can work extremely sustainably. If you're raising the floor,
Yeah.
oftentimes there's really not a lot of perceived likelihood of failure. And that's when people are just like, oh, it, let's do it. Dude, it was just like every day failing and failing and failing. I'm the king of objectionless closes. I have very few examples of overcoming objections. I have hundreds of examples of never getting objections at all. Like hundreds. I don't know. I think everybody has it inside of them. You just gotta cut the out of you, and if you want it, you'll actually get it. That's for everything in life. Like if you want to get jacked, you will.
Yeah.
And I think you just have to be honest with yourself.
So what do you do to differentiate yourself and make it easy for them to say yes to work with you?
One thing, which is if I hired closers and they didn't do it, I would fire them immediately. Like that's the one thing that saves so much time, so much effort. And what I did on every single call to literally never get objections ever is I just
Craziest story that happened over the last 3 months. Hunter, take the floor.
Yeah, I lost 80 grand on a house. This is take two, so I'm going to be right to the point. Lost 80K on a house. Some people are like, holy shit, that's a lot of money. It still is at this point. I don't care how much money you make. It was very painful. The biggest lesson that I learned from it was when you split focus, I think you do you do a shitty job at multiple things. You just do.
Yeah.
And for me, it was trying to pay zero income tax. So overlooked a lot of things. I'm super busy with multiple things going on. And then I added in a wealth strategy to go learn all about short-term rentals, accelerated depreciation, and it's all cool, but unless you have the focus for everything, it's not worth it. And then I went and watched the Alex Ramosi video that was like, why do you give a shit about paying no taxes? Just go make more money. So definitely humbled me. Yeah.
No, that's definitely a great lesson. And I think most people who have been in the game for at least a couple of years and made a little bit of money has probably faced that problem at one point. I know one of my business partner's friends, he's done quite well for himself in crypto, but it's like every day, nonstop, full time. One of the things that he talks about is like the reason why so many people get fucked in crypto, because crypto is a little bit different because it's like if somebody wins, somebody else loses,
Yeah.
right? And it's like there's people that literally wake up every single day and like just do crypto. And so like if you're gonna beat them as a part-time side hustle, like you have to get extremely lucky, right? And so it's like that was like a good reminder for like everything, right? If you're gonna beat somebody at cold outreach, right, it's gonna be hard to do it if it's just like a kind of a thing that you do on the side. Well, there's other people that are doing it all day, full time, every single day. So with that, then moving into a little bit about you, like for the people that don't know you, how many subscribers you got on YouTube right now?
I don't even know. I think it's around 4K,
Okay, so
something
you
like that.
are by far a hidden gem. And I think like from what I've seen in the agency space and whatnot, the guys that are doing well with their agency, the guys that are especially getting into sales, which is something I want to talk to you about today, they know who you are. But I think like probably the vast majority of people haven't yet heard about you. So take 2 minutes or so, share your backstory. You know, maybe I don't know how long you've been in this for, but from the reason you wanted to even start a business to where you are now.
Yeah, I started in 2018. I actually, just super quick story. I was a personal trainer at Under Armour, which sounds really cool, and it was, but it paid really terribly. So I just wanted to do anything. So I wanted to make my own little personal training business. And I actually got somebody cold outreach to me. We ran some ads and we did pretty well. And I got a bunch of clients. Like it was just like a little SMMA thing. And I was their client. So
Yeah.
they hired me to be like a client success coach for their company. So they flew me out to California and I live in Baltimore. So it's across the country. I went and
Yeah.
couch surfed for almost a year, made no money as an appointment setter and client success coach. And this company was trying to compete with Gym Launch in like 2018. I'll just say it. Terrible company, terrible leadership, but it's all good. Like it was a huge learning experience. So after I felt like I learned enough, I moved back home. I started an agency. When I first started, I was still really bad at sales. Like I just straight up didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah.
I'll get into all the nuances there, but fast forward in 4 years, we did like just under 5 million bucks in a chiropractic SMMA, cash
Nice.
collected, and then yep, sold the company. Recently, I've just been building out some other stuff, but yeah, so it was the main success that I've had so far is through SMMA.
And in the process of building your agency to, you know, making 5 mil over that period of time, what was your like bread and butter? Like what was your specialty? Like what were you the best at inside the company?
I legitimately think at this point, and I know this might be arrogant and naive, I don't think there's anybody better at sales or sales training than me. I just
Yeah.
haven't seen it, and maybe there probably is.
Yeah.
But specifically for SMMA, there's so many things that you can do to increase the perceived likelihood of success on the client on the other end that it's just it doesn't matter if you have a great offer. You just lower the barrier so much to like them
Yeah.
thinking that they're going to succeed and they just jump in. So bread and butter was 100% sales. I made a bunch of YouTube videos about this, but we actually scaled to 100K a month without paid ads, and we did that through cold looms, cold outbound. So yeah, that was very profitable at that point.
Okay, so when it comes to sales, like what are some of those things that you do to separate yourself from everybody, like the 17 other fucking agencies that these guys have hopped on the phone with? Like that's the thing that we always talk about. It's like these people sometimes when they're beginners, they forget the fact that them hopping on the call with the prospect, they're the 17th one to hop on the call with the prospect. So what do you do to
Mhm.
differentiate yourself and make it easy for them to say yes to work with you?
Yep, a couple different things. Number one, I think a lot of people get shiny object syndrome and they niche hop. So
Hmm.
every time you go to a new niche, you're actually restarting your learning curve of the niche, which
Yeah.
means it's just like you said, like if somebody focuses solely on one thing, they're going to go way deeper in it.
Yeah.
So all these pop-up agencies that would go in and out of business every single month compared to me, my information diet on my niche, which was chiropractic, was way deeper than any
Yeah.
competition, like hands down, not even close. To
Yeah.
where people always assume that I was a chiropractor because I was whipping out like really just really granular stuff in the niche. So if you can know the niche deeper, that will at least start you in a better light to being trustworthy in the beginning of the call. And
Yeah.
as long as they know that they're speaking to like a fellow industry person, not necessarily a marketer, they'll feel a lot more trust in the beginning. Other than that, there's a bunch of things that I do. I think on a sales call, it's like a battle of belief statements. And a lot
Hmm.
of people will hop on and be like, oh, yeah, I've tried Facebook ads before. It doesn't work. And that's a belief statement.
Yeah.
So it's just really on every sales call, like whose belief statements is going to outshine the other. So I try and set up all my calls to where I'm dropping my own belief statements first, and they don't feel good about challenging my beliefs. So one thing that I drop on like every single sales call, you're getting through the qualification portion, asking them questions on their business, and you're like, yeah, so I don't know if you're like 80% of the clients that I talk to, but it's like, hey, Hunter, I know Facebook ads work. I've made a lot of money with it. After a while, it just starts to tail off. Are you like one of those people? So what I've done right there is it's not if this is going to work. Now it's how long is this going to work? And that is legitimately so many people that you will talk to. It's just mismanagement of ads.
Yeah.
So if you run an SMMA, somebody is hopping on another call, like they've just mismanaged a campaign, their last company. And this happens all the time. Like people, they throw up an ad, it crushes for a while. They can't get client creatives or something happens and the ads just tank. So there's that. There's a ton of things. I could keep going for like 90 minutes, but it is basically that. Like if you're like raising the floor, there's no like if anymore. It's just how long is this going to work? We already know it's both going to be successful. Like if you're raising the floor,
Yeah.
oftentimes there's really not a lot of perceived likelihood of failure. And that's when people are just like, ah, fuck it, let's do it. If
Yeah.
it's 2K, 3K, 4K a month, they'll just do it
That's sweet. Curious, do you do much storytelling?
all the time. Yeah.
Because that was one of the things that I learned from reading Expert Secrets. And honestly, like if there's one book that's like dramatically changed my life, like if I had to, it would be Expert Secrets. And one of the things that he talks about, which I've used a lot, is like the fact that in order to change somebody's belief, they either have to experience something or hear a story from a source that they trust, right? And so it's rewriting these beliefs in people's mind with like epiphany bridge stories. I'm curious if you do that, how has it gone for you? If you have any like insight on storytelling on sales calls.
Yeah, we added that into our script. I got it from somewhere else. I don't know where I got it from. I got it from like, but it's called Feel, Felt, Found. I don't know if you've heard it put
I've
that way.
heard
It's
of
the
that.
same
I don't know where
exact
I don't know where it's from, but I've heard that before too. Yeah.
It's the same exact framework. So you're like, hey, I know how you're feeling right now, but that's exactly how Dylan felt when he
Yeah.
jumped in. He was also at 10K a month, really didn't know where to go. And what he found was all these like coaching agencies, they don't really work unless XYZ. But now, fast forward to today, he is at 60K a month. And all he had to do, again, just raising the floor, all he had to do was just that.
Yeah.
So yeah, storytelling absolutely crushes. I think if people can put themselves in other people's shoes and it's from some trusted source, if they know the person or the person has the same exact story, huge benefit on calls. We do it all the time.
Yeah, that's sweet. Another thing I wanted to dive into because I used to run like a coaching consulting. I used to like that was my it used to be all I do. And when I was in that phase, your name used to come up. That was how I discovered you, right? Like people started talking about you on calls, and then I looked you up, and you only had like 2,000 subscribers. And I think what really resonated with a lot of people, especially beginners who didn't have as much confidence or things like that, was I think you've coined it as like how to sell like an introvert. I want to hear more about that. Selling like an
Yeah.
introvert.
So that's when I said there's some nuance to us scaling our company. Like I just fast forwarded 4 years. When I
Yeah.
first started, can I swear? Like,
Can you? Yeah, of course.
dude, I was dog shit at sales.
Some
Terrible.
this might be the most explicit channel in the industry.
Oh, okay. Well, fuck, let's go, baby. But yeah, dude, I was so bad. And I think it's just because I had a misunderstanding of like what sales was.
Yeah.
I tried to take a moral high ground to protect my own ego. And I was like, you know what? This is manipulation. But persuasion with a good intent is just that. It's persuasion. Persuasion with a
Yeah.
bad intent is manipulation. But yeah, I fumbled all my first sales calls. It was like 30 something sales calls, hopped on every single one. They were way too long. They were like 90 minutes, wasted both of our time. Dude, it was just like every day failing and failing and failing. And then I started to stop trying to be somebody that I wasn't because I would watch all these YouTube videos like Dan Locke, Jordan Belfort. There's a couple others though to where like if you're new to sales, you look at like stereotypical successful salespeople and
Yeah.
you're like, I got to be like that. And to me, like I am very much an introvert. And I would just notice, like, I even uploaded on YouTube some of my first calls. And like, if you know my personality, it's the most cringeworthy shit you'll ever see me trying to sell in the beginning stages. Dude, it's so bad. You guys, anybody can go check it out. But it wasn't until I turned that off and I just like calmed the hell down and I focused on my sales calls instead of convincing them of something what I would do is try and lead the trail and the carrots to have them convince themselves. And all I would do throughout the call is shut off doors that could be obstacles or objections and just lead them down a path. And at the end is very, very simple. I'm the king of objectionless closes. I have very few examples of overcoming objections. I have hundreds of examples of never getting objections at all, like hundreds. And it's just from all the frameworks that I do.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you, like, why do you think you get almost no objections?
I guess simply put, like people are on here for a reason. They want it to work. Otherwise,
Yeah.
they wouldn't be on the call.
Yeah.
So you're appealing to their deepest desire. There's a bunch of different frameworks that you can do on increasing perceived likelihood of success, but
Yeah.
if they're qualified, you give them a legitimate reason, like a logical reason why they qualify, not just like, oh, you're a good fit just because you have a credit card. Like you give them a good reason why the system is going to work for them. And what I did on every single call to literally never get objections ever is I call it pre-framing the close. And I've done this thousands of times, but it's very simple. You basically ask them for a small favor to make a decision at the end of the call. And I
Hmm.
can get into that, but that one thing, which is if I hired closers and they didn't do it, I would fire them immediately. Like that's the one thing that saves so much time, so much effort. When you have sales calls stacked like 8 to 10 a day, and every last 10 or 20% of the call, you're exerting so much mental energy to overcome objections. I
Yeah.
just can't do it. So, yeah, we would pre-frame the close, ask for a decision. And at the end, it's just like I said before, I'm closing off all the doors on the pitch. And that's it. It's objectionless like every single time.
Nice. So how are you setting appointments? Or how were you setting appointments? Was it all through cold outbound?
Yeah, when I was, yep,
Because
until about
what
100K a month. Yep.
okay. Yeah, because one of the things that we've actually seen, like even with our current agency and whatnot right now, is like depending on the lead source, the sales process is slightly different.
Sure.
And one of the challenges that we actually ran into was like, you know, a lot of the leads that came in through a lot of the marketing that I was doing was like 50, 60% close rates. The closer could be a moron on the call and they would still say yes. You know, it's almost like the sales prospect was like ready to go and like they were just going through the motions of the sales call, listen to the closer yap on for 45 minutes and then just give you the credit card. Cold email though. right? Like we launched cold email about 2 months ago-ish, and then also even ads was a little bit more tougher, where we're noticing that it is requiring a little bit more of a sales ability to get those yeses at the end of the call. So you said you were from cold outreach. Was that email, cold calling, or what was that from?
I really didn't do a lot of email. We did a ton
Yeah,
of cold DMs on Instagram and Facebook. We've tried everything else, cold email, LinkedIn, just didn't really work well for us. And it was more of like a time thing, just to be honest, that like it was already working. So we went all into that. But yeah,
yeah,
Facebook and Instagram DMs, we did cold video pitches in them. And these people were super cold. And we still
yeah.
had an amazing close rate.
So that's really good because I think a lot of the people that are watching this, like, one of the things that I've taken to heart is like sales gets you to 100K, marketing gets you to a million,
Mhm.
right? And so I think for the majority of people, they're relying more heavily on that sales, so that cold outbound approaches and whatnot, as opposed to setting inbound funnels and running tripwire funnels and stuff like that. So how do you start? How do you preface? How do you build rapport with these people who like literally just saw a single DM and it's like they agreed to hop on a call?
Yeah, there's a bunch of things that we set up just to make the process easier for ourselves. So, number one, if people are beginners, it means that you either have a lot of time or a lot of money. If you're a
Yeah,
beginner, you probably just have a lot of time and really no money.
yeah,
So, you have literally no excuse not to know everything about this person before you hop on with them. I don't even care if it's cold email. You can find just go start Googling, search
yeah,
for this person's name and their keyword niche, like find them on social media, find everything they like to do, and like actually get some intel on the person first. But when we did cold Instagram and Facebook, we'd be scrubbing through their profiles. We were in chiropractic. Then we would find the website. Then we would find where they went to school. Then we would find the techniques that they did and all the friends that they had. Like we went deep, dude, into every. So we had all the intel basically prepared before every single call. The other thing that we would do is send like a little VSL before the appointment. It was really just to increase show rate, but it also helped. So what I do on all this is now at this point, I do this in any offer I'm ever in. I send them a VSL on how the program works before they come in. Now there's nothing to think about. It is just a sales call. I can still share my screen and show them everything on how the program works, but I literally make a VSL, just a little Loom video. I share my screen, I go through the pitch deck like I'm literally pitching somebody, and I send that to them before the call. So when they hop on, all we're talking about is them and us as a partnership. So it's much easier that way. You're almost getting all the shit done before the
yeah.
call. And then, yeah, you can actually focus on selling them on the call.
And when did you switch to a little bit more emphasis on the marketing?
Dude, we crushed. We immediately scaled to like 240 a month and
Yeah.
then pretty much just hit there. And I think I had a lot of growing and learning to do as a business owner. So we were pretty much capped there because I think as like any entrepreneur, you're capped to the leader and what
Yeah.
they're able
Yeah.
to do or hire. So I was pretty much the cap of my business. But yeah, paid ads were sick, dude. I have a whole folder of them. I don't think anybody did it. Like, I think we were the first to do a lot of stuff.
So it was paid ads was your marketing source that you kind of dived into?
Yeah. Yep.
And, and were you just ripping like simple, yo, book a call with us, like video ads, like,
I might make a YouTube video on this. I really dislike the state of SMMA where it's like, we'll come into your business and in 30 days, we didn't do any of that.
yeah,
It
of
was all
course.
like really well produced, really well edited. It just, if you compared us to the competitors, you could
Mm.
immediately tell that some kid was living in his basement and these people had like 30 employees. So I might make a YouTube video about this, but yeah, on the paid ad side, it's just like you said, they've probably talked to 17 other people. The problem with SMMA is that everybody likes to copy what's working, and that's fine for a short
Yeah.
term, but as a long term, it's terrible. Like you're a dime a dozen.
Do you know Dan Kennedy?
Oh, damn. I know the name.
Okay, so Dan Kennedy, he's like referred to by a lot of people as like the godfather of t direct response marketing.
Okay.
And he's like an older guy. He actually almost died a couple years ago, but he sold his company to Russell Brunson. Alex Ramosi was learned a lot from him, and he's like probably an author, written a bunch of books and stuff. And one of the most valuable phrases that he said, which I like took to heart and is, done very well for me, and I think a lot of people who have succeeded, even if they haven't heard this before, is that whenever you don't know what to do, look at what everybody else is doing and do the exact opposite.
It's super interesting.
And that right there, it's like, it's so true. It's like if everybody's standing there with their Alex Ramosi captions in a polo, maybe they got into some apartment with some nice view in the background, and they're sitting there with their polo, telling you that they're going to guarantee you 10 chiropractor patients in the next 90 days or give you four times your refund. And then you just go in there and do something completely opposite. And I think most times that's ends up what's actually working.
Yeah, I can
So
attest to that too.
yeah, for sure. So after 100K a month, like what were some of the biggest challenges that you faced?
I think at 100K a month, our sales were pretty dialed. I think it was just more volume. So I think for us personally, because we didn't scale to 100K a month on paid ads, our retention was super solid, really good.
Hmm.
So for us, it was just more volume. And then the second that we increased a ton of volume, we experienced a ton of churn.
Yeah,
So it that was a huge learning experience too. For us, like 0 to 100 was just like an exercise of like go out, get the client, perform for them really well, and just keep them forever. It was really vanilla, really stupid, simple.
yeah,
But the 100 to like 200, it was honestly hell, dude, to be honest. I had so much growing to do as a business owner. So it was like a churn machine. We'd onboard like 30 clients a month, lose like 15 a month.
yeah.
Pretty common. Yeah, it was not fun.
We experience similar things. So I want to ask you more about this. Like our story goes as such. We launched the agency. It took us 5 weeks to get to 100K. Then we've plateaued between 150, 200 for the last like 5 or 6 months. And it's like we ran into a huge issue with churn at one point. It was like all the actual problems. So when it comes to churn, I know the thing is that we noticed is like we had to start applying the concept of like good to great, right? Like we had a good product, we had a good service, but in order to become great, it required like 10x the input. It required like 10x the effort. It required like even if to only make it like 20% better, we had to go like 100 times more, but that 20% is what makes all the difference on the back end. So what were kind of the biggest problems that you had and what did you have to do to kind of fix that?
I can sum it up in one sentence. My company became a Slack channel for contractors, not employees. It wasn't a company until I changed it. So our Slack channel was full of contractors that would show up and get tasks done. There wasn't a lot of team meetings, there wasn't any culture. And it wasn't until I just looked at it and I was like, I hate this. So I didn't even do a wise move, which would have been to hire people and then fire people. I did the opposite. I just fired everybody. And then I went and scrambled and it was miserable and I did everything and then started hiring some people underneath me. But that was like one of the main pieces for us to take it from good to great. And we experienced like a lot of issues on it because we would call leads for people. Our call center was outsourced. It was terrible. So I had to hire our own employees and get them to
Yeah,
come in.
yeah.
Media buyers were contractors. I wanted to hire like legitimate US based media buyers. Sales was all me. So I had to like, I had the classic ego of like, nobody can sell like me. But I had to realize like, if somebody could just close 70% as good as me, that's great. Like that'll
Yeah.
be fine for now. So those were the main things with churn. I think a lot of people, just real quick, a lot of people want to take the shortcut and it's good to quick money, but it's like, would you rather get rich quickly or safely?
Yeah.
I'd pick safely every single time at this point in my
100%.
life.
Yeah, no,
So,
100%. I talk about that
all
all the
these,
time. Like if you were to make $1 million tomorrow, but there was a 90% chance that you were going to lose it all, you wouldn't feel accomplished.
yeah, there's a saying, it's like if you have $1 million, you got to learn how to be a millionaire really quick or you're going to lose it all. It's
Yeah.
just, yeah, so it's the safety aspect, but I do some consulting and like everybody I talk to just wants the money really quick. It
Hmm.
always ends up the same. They're going to learn that lesson and they're going to keep having to learn it the hard way until they adjust and kind of fix it.
Yeah. No, I know for us, it's like it was weird. It just like honestly, it just like fell in our lap. Like we weren't trying to Chad scale to 100K a month or anything. It
At
was just
scale.
like we weren't trying to do any of that. It was just like we started our marketing, we turned on our calendar, our sales calendar was full, everybody started saying yes, and it was very overwhelming. Like it was one of the most it was weird. Like from the outside, it was like, oh my God, Dylan's made it, he's crushing it. But I was like probably the most stressed I've ever been. Way stressed than when I was, sitting there at like, $20,000 a month, knowing what I was doing. So what did the acquisition process or the sale process look like? When did you decide to? Why did you decide to? And then I guess what were some key learnings that you found in that?
Like, why did we decide to turn on ads?
No, sell the company.
Oh, oh, the acquisition of the company. Dude, this is me just being really honest. I think I got to a point where I realized I was the main bottleneck and I was also really burnt out. Actually, I'm just going to cut the whole story into like a sentence. If I'm being really honest with myself, I made an emotional decision, but I convinced myself it wasn't because it was over a year. So I was like,
Hmm.
I've put a lot of time into this. There's no way it can be an emotional decision. Looking back, I actually regret it because I could have made way more money if I kept it and went through and solved the problems. It's all good, live and learn. But yeah, I'll get into all the process, but I actually do regret it. So for anybody that's trying to like build up and scale their company, one of my buddies, I know you interviewed Stevie Johnston.
Yeah.
Um, I think even he's kind of gray on selling. Like he still wants to one day, but I think when that time comes, he might just want to keep it because if you have a cash cow, why would you sell it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Just something to think about. It's not as sexy as it looks. For us, the acquisition process was super slow, time consuming, and it lowered our revenue. So we had like a 3 month process where you do a due diligence, and it is literally a full-time job, bro, because you have to backtrack a company over, and ours was only 4 years. Like imagine all these other bigger companies and how long the acquisition cycle takes. But we had to go back and get every single piece of paper for the last 4 years, prove everything to be correct, do the due diligence. And the thing that I didn't realize is if you want to sell a company, you're actually legitimately selling something, which means it's two subjective perspectives against one
Yeah.
another. It's like, I think it's worth this. I think it's worth
Yeah.
this. I thought it was just you calculate the EBITDA and that's it. And it is to an extent. And for people that don't know what that is, earnings before interest, taxes, amortization, and blah, 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 you can Google it. But yeah, so we had to go through that whole process. It completely shifted my focus off the business. Churn went up, revenue went down, sales were fucked. And at that point, after going through it, I was like, yeah, I don't even want to be a part of it. Just I'm 100% selling. So yeah, did that, got a letter of intent, went through, you sign a piece of paper and you get a lot of money. That's about it.
So what are you doing now?
Right now, the last year, and dude, I'm a transparent guy. I'm just gonna let it all air out. I had a really tough year after selling. I really
Yeah.
struggled with like identity. SMMA was like a cult to me. So I'm like, I don't exist outside of this. Like, what else is there? So I've dabbled in a bunch of different things. Like I worked with Stevie Johnston, if anybody wants to check out his YouTube at DigitalOx, running
Yeah.
sales and marketing there for a little bit. I started up another SMMA and I absolutely hated it. Like I just let all the clients churn and just let it die.
Yeah.
And I do some sales consulting. So I'm still like the income's solid, but I think I'm still in a season of like figuring it out. But my next big thing that I want to be like an 8-figure opportunity is I think what I'm doing, well, I shouldn't say I think. I always say that to protect myself, but I'm going all into insurance, life insurance, building out a huge agency, a marketing agency, like a sales agency. That's a Nothing's easy, but that's a simple path to eight
Yeah.
figures.
Nice. So is that your big $1 million play now?
I think so. I know so. Yeah.
You know, so what are you do some consulting? Is that with Black Sheep?
Yep. Yeah. It's
So what
just
does that look like?
beginner group. We get a bunch of people that join every day from our YouTube. But yeah, it's a bunch of agencies. They're normally like 0 to like 30K a month. And we're really boring. And I think it just goes back to like getting rich safely. We don't sell anything on like AI or new tech or anything like that. We teach the fundamentals
Yeah.
so that people can have like long sustained growth. And that's like our main sales message is like you can I know personally people that scaled an agency to 100K a month in 30 days, went on all the podcasts about it, but the business actually legitimately got like 80K in chargebacks, angry, went out of business the next day. So I just pick safely every time. That's all we
Yeah.
teach, all the fundamentals and sales,
Yeah.
marketing, and fulfillment.
It's ironic. It's like one of the things that one of our like core quotes that's like we literally have it on like the contract that you have to agree to it is building great things take immense amount of effort and time. Which is so funny because people know our story about like how it fucking happened overnight. But yeah, like that's definitely something that's I think we see a lot of is like people trying to take the shortcuts and it's like, yes, it might have happened in a short period of time for us, but I started my first agency 6 years ago. My business partner started his first agency 7 years ago. So did it take 30 days or did it take 6 years?
Basically 6. Yeah.
Yeah, right. And people forget about the last 6 years. So I guess when you're speaking to these guys, 10K a month, 15K a month, what's usually the unlock for them in sales?
The unlock for them in sales. So we literally just had a meeting yesterday. We have like 50 or 60 people on a call and we're reviewing one person's call. I wanted to pull this call out because when he first started, his name's Michael. He's in the dental niche. When he first started, his call was about 12 minutes of intro and qualification and then about 45 minutes of pitch and then asking for the close. And he obviously didn't get it.
Yeah.
What he changed over the last 2 months was that the first 45 minutes of the call is qualification and pre-selling and framing the end of the call and closing off doors.
Yeah.
12 minutes on the pitch deck, if that, and then close objectionless. So the biggest shift for people when they're beginners is like they think if somebody hops on and they're a good fit, now I have to sell them. It's actually the opposite. If somebody hops on and they're a good fit, you have to sell them. The pitch deck or whatever you're showing them on your system is there to prove what you said, but you are selling them before you ever share a screen or talk about your program. If somebody's not sold, I'll break that down in a second, but if they're not sold before going over your program, they're not going to buy. And I didn't even know that Russell Brunson has been saying this for a while, but I've been saying this. There's two sales calls that happen on every single call. You sell them on the methodology, and then you sell them on you fulfilling the methodology.
Yeah.
So Russell Brunson talks about like the same thing. I think he says it differently, but he's
Internal
like,
belief.
yeah,
He says there's internal beliefs, which is like, I don't believe I can do it. External beliefs, which is like, I don't have enough money, I don't have enough time, my business model isn't right fit for this. And then there's vehicle beliefs. I don't believe Facebook ads, and you have to come overcome all three of those before.
and what he does on the specifically vehicle beliefs for ClickFunnels is he sells people on funnels and he's not selling them on ClickFunnels. He's like, this is why you need
Exactly.
funnels. He's, by the way, we do that. That's what we do on every single sales call. And you're right, the internal and external beliefs are there too. But if it is actually all three, I even made a YouTube video on this. It's kind of said differently,
Yeah.
but it's just my findings. I don't know what the title is. It's like the secrets to blah, 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 or 5 million. I don't know. But yeah, it's basically that. So you're selling them on the methodology. Facebook ads work. You do need this more than you don't. Like you absolutely need to do this. And then here's how like we get results. So I am selling people on the methodology of our system of like even using it and they're like, yeah, I want to do it. And we're like, cool, well, here's what it looks like. So people are sold before we share the screen. That's the main paradigm shift that like everybody has as a beginner that comes through Black Sheep.
That's awesome.
Mhm.
Well, is there anything that you think that you could share that we didn't dive into? Anything that you've wanted to share, wanted to talk about, wanted to go in on?
Yeah, I think just as like an overall thing when you're building a business, I think we've touched on it a lot, but kind of like you said, to being good to great is when you look at it really just like that last 10 or 20%, but it is 10x the effort.
Yeah.
I've actually seen that in just to shout him out again, Stevie Johnston. His agency is Digitalox. They've hit 600K a month. I think they're dipping a little bit below, making some changes. They will be at $1 million a month as an SMMA.
Yeah.
And that is like unheard of, besides like a couple other people that I know of. Very few people. But
Yeah.
the product is so important. And yeah, I feel like a lot of people that take a lot of coaches and courses from SMMA, they understand getting new clients and they don't understand that that's just the beginning.
Yeah.
So they go like run up agencies and they're always faced with churn. And even I did this. And then you just burn out and then you start coaching too. So like, yeah, a lot of these people don't realize that like SMMA can work. It can work extremely sustainably, but you do have to take it from good to great. And everything out there, 99% of agencies are just good. They're
Yeah.
not great.
Yeah.
So
Well, I think
it's
that's
just,
another thing too. And like, I mean, that's the thing that like, we definitely learned and adapted to massively over the last special couple of months. It's like SMMA is usually just the starting point, usually just the maybe 0 to 50K, but beyond 50K, at least from what I've seen, most guys who are actually crushing it, like it's not a traditional SMMA. Like Stevie's a call center, right? We do done for you cold email and we do done for you funnels and whatnot. So like I don't know if you've ever seen those. There's guys on YouTube that you've probably seen where it's like they'll sell like a $3 product and it'll like
mhm,
upsell and we'll have like 17 different like that's all the shit that we're doing, which isn't like traditional
mhm.
SMMA Facebook ads to go high level. So I think like a lot of the time you get your feet wet with like the traditional SMMA and then when you get to that phase where it's like okay, now we need to build a really good product, it's switching to that like whatever problem that you need to solve, and it becomes a lot more advanced than just like a traditional SMMA.
Mhm. And just like you said, the quote, which is like what everybody's doing, go the opposite direction.
Yeah.
My quote is different is always better than better. If
Yeah,
you're just
of course.
taking the same thing somebody else did and just doing it a little bit better, nobody even understands that. But if
Yeah.
you're different, they're like, oh, well, how are you different? So, yeah,
New opportunities are always better than improvement offers,
yeah,
right? Like
yep.
somebody's trying to get six pack abs and they've been doing sit-ups. You're gonna have a lot easier time selling them with like a new way to work out as opposed to like, hey, here's a better way to do sit-ups.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. No, for sure. Anyways, well, this has been awesome. This has been great. I think you shared a lot of really good, valuable insights here. I'll shout out all your shit in the description here.
Shout
Um,
my shit, man. Thank you.
definitely a hidden gem here, especially when it comes to sales and everything related to getting clients in regards to the agency space. I guess any final words from you?
Ooh, geez, maybe. I don't know. I think everybody has it inside of them. You just gotta cut the bitch out of you, and if you want it, you'll actually get it. That's for everything in life. Like if you want to get jacked, you will.
Yeah,
And I think you just have to be honest with yourself.
that's
Brutal
awesome.
honesty within yourself, yeah, that'll humble you.
Awesome, man. Well, it was a pleasure.